Hello, I am PC Rathod and I'm the Safer Schools Officer for Noah Hill High School. During this talk, I'll briefly explain the role of a Safer Schools Officer, answer some of your questions from the parent survey, and provide basic information on e-safety. Firstly, I'm going to start off by explaining my role as a Safer Schools Officer. So my role is to work with the school on educating young persons around the police, crime and repercussions of their possible actions. The Safer Schools team are there as a support mechanism for the school, the children and their families when they are victims or suspects of crime. Our role here is to try and work with the young person who has made a mistake and find solutions to the problem so it doesn't end up with them getting criminal records. So in a basis, we look to find ways to keep our young people criminal record free and also possibly to keep them away from crime. The second point I'm going to go on to is questions from the parent survey. So we had a question about drugs. So dealing any drugs is a crime. It's always taken seriously when people are found to be selling drugs or using young people to sell drugs. Officers also provide after-school patrols to deter drug activity around the school and its surroundings. Also, presentations around drugs and their effects are given to and made available to schools to warn of any dangers. We also work with partner agencies that help with this, whereby we have applied for funding to have their support. We work based on information being given to the police for us to action on. Without people telling us it's happening, we are limited to our actions. We understand that people are scared to tell the police what's happening for fear of reprisals. However, we work with agencies such as fearless.org, where young people can give information anonymously regarding their concerns and issues which then get passed to us to look into. Next question was, what are the Safer Schools team doing to protect, support and educate young people around strangers, potential grooming, sexting, sexual offences? As a parent, you wouldn't let your child walk out of the front door naked or showing a private body part. Also, you wouldn't let your child walk out of the house swearing and shouting at people or being almost like threatening or bullying to someone. Also, as a parent, you wouldn't let your child speak to strangers when leaving the house. This is because we know all of this is wrong and that they may be committing crimes if they conduct themselves like this. These kind of things, unfortunately, do happen, but thankfully not too often, as parents will supervise and parent their children. When it comes to mobile phones, these above behaviours are still wrong and can still fall into a criminal offence category. The content of what is being sent and what is being received still needs to be supervised. Safer Schools officers will always be available to deliver sessions on sexting and sexual offences and have done within schools with very positive results. With regards to sexting, the situation will be dealt with as discreetly as possible with the school. Our aim is to ensure that young people do not end up with criminal records. The law itself states that any person who sends an indecent image of a child under 18 commits an offence. Therefore, the child who took the photo of themselves and sent it on commits the offence. Every time the picture gets forwarded by another person, the offence is again complete. Mobile phones must not be used for this kind of message. Once the message has been sent, we have no powers to have it removed from the company that owns the platform. It is permanent. We will, however, work with the school to have it deleted from as many devices as we know it's on. We really need parents to push home this message to their children. If their children are being asked by someone to send such a message, this must be reported and can be dealt with by the schools officer, so myself. The next thing we're going to is cyberbullying. This is something we will always work with the schools to deal with. Firstly, the child suffering needs to come forward and tell someone they are struggling. As mentioned above, it really will help the parents if they are aware of what is being sent and received in the first instance, which will require parents to continually monitor what is being passed through the phone or electronic device. The next part of it, is ensuring children have a balanced use of mobile and online technology. Secondary school, years ago, very quickly and before they know it, they'll be sat at a desk doing their GCSEs. With this situation around COVID-19, it is highlighted more than ever the importance of seizing every minute of education to get the best marks possible. The advice from us would be to concentrate on their education and limit as many distractions as possible. That's not to say that they cannot have phones or PlayStations or any kind of gaming devices. but instead the schoolwork comes first, followed by exercise. We have seen an increase in young people suffering mentally. Having family time, exercise and parent-child discussions really help in this area. Try not to let them spend a lot of time on their own, or on the phone, or any of the electronic devices. Something to be wary of is young people staying up very late at night and early hours of the morning on mobile phones, electronic devices. This really is counterproductive to a child's education, as they come to school very tired. There are many apps that can assist parents in monitoring their child's phone. You'll be able to see what is being sent, received, and what is being looked at on the internet. These apps also limit times of a child's use and have a Find My Child app. If a young person is aware of the app, that it's on the phone, the likelihood of them falling victims to or perpetrators of grooming, bullying, threatening, sexting will reduce significantly. The younger the child is when these apps are added to their phone, the more normal it becomes for them as they grow older. This is not you being intrusive, it's you being a responsible parent who wants the best for their child. There are lots of these child monitoring apps which are available on Android and Apple devices, some of which are Guardian, Parental Control, and Secure Teen. So now we'll go through a short presentation on e-safety and social media. Online safety is a big thing, so ensure your privacy settings are set to the highest settings and are only visible to your friends, family, or people that you know quite well. Turn off your phone and app location settings for your photos and status updates, because when they are left turned on, they can reveal your address, places you go to often. The next part of online safety is don't reveal personal information such as your address, phone number, date of birth, what school you go to, or when you will be out of the house. Don't become online friends with people you don't know, and don't agree to meet with anybody you have only met online. Also, avoid sending any kind of pictures of yourself to anyone, especially indecent ones. Once you send any kind of information or pictures over social media apps or online, this cannot be deleted. If you send any information like this, you'll leave yourself at a risk of illegal activity, for example, bullying, fraud, or different types of abuse. Next point, going on to social media. The ages to register on most social media apps is 13 years old. However, WhatsApp itself is 16 years old. But most important information in regards to social media apps is the terms and conditions, as anything shared on these apps is actually owned by them. So the terms and the conditions, as you can see on this slide, you'll see basic terms and conditions which go across most social media apps. And some offences I will go across is malicious communications. Depending on the seriousness of the offence, this can attract a fine or 6 months to up to 2 years in prison. Harassment can attract a restraining order and anything between 6 months in prison. Stalking involving fear of violence can attract up to 10 years in prison. Indecent images, depending on the seriousness of the offence, can attract from 6 months up to 2 years in prison and the possibility of being put on the sex offenders register. Threats to kill, depending on the seriousness of the offence and the threats, can attract 6 months up to 10 years in prison. So the most important, whether you do it online or you do it in the real world, it is still the same offence. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions or require any more information, please don't hesitate to get in contact with myself or through the school themselves.